Bottoms up. Okay, so we're gonna talk about some writing advice, specifically, the show don't tell aspect of writing, and of course the tip of the iceberg, so-called method or style. Now, a lot of these newer writers today, younger writers, they say that you have to. It is almost mandatory to show, don't tell. And because they say, showing is better writing than actually just telling. Now, that may be right, but I would say that, there's nothing wrong with either of these methods of writing. There's nothing wrong with showing, there's nothing wrong with telling. It all depends on how you construct, the showing or the telling. It's all about, I would say, it's more about skill than just actually sitting there and telling something or showing something. It's all about the skill, how you employ the method. But a lot of these younger writers, they insist most of the time that, showing is the better technique to use in your writing. And, not necessarily. I would say that that is not necessarily true. Like I stated before, it's all about the skill of the writer, not necessarily just because you show and don't tell doesn't mean that you're a good writer. It's how you show it. It's how you tell it that makes it good writing. If if you just employ the technique without any skill or refinement, that doesn't make it automatically good writing, right? But I'm going to tell you my point of view, which is there's no such thing as the right method, the right technique, the correct style, and all the others are incorrect, improper, inadequate. There's no such thing as in writing. It's all about the skill of the writer that employs these methods. All right, just because you show and don't tell doesn't mean that you're a good writer automatically. It's all about skill, I would say, and uh, yeah, uh, I think aspiring writers should work on their skill, and they shouldn't obsess over styles and certain techniques. I would say that they should really just focus on polishing their skill in terms of writing. And you know young writers, and I asked the same question when I started writing, is you know what should I write about, and how should I go about it? What style should I apply? What method? How should I formulate the phrases and what have you? And the answer is simple. What you have to do is, I would say that it's better not to subscribe to traditional methods that have been proven uh, successful, because just because they have been successful to others doesn't mean that that applies to you. Every person is different, and it might not work for you. What you really have to do is, if you have to sit down and you really have to think about what kind of book would I like to read? And this is the question that the writer should ask himself or herself, is what kind of book would I like to read? And that's the kind of book you should write, right? And if you find that answer, it doesn't matter if you show, it doesn't matter if you tell, it doesn't matter if you apply both methods. You have to stick to what you feel is right. You don't have to subscribe to, these you don't have to subscribe to this list of things you have to do in order to be successful as a writer, because they might not apply to you and your personality, right? So don't take it so seriously. Don't worry so much about showing and telling and the iceberg theory at the tip of the iceberg. Listen, uh, I have read a decent amount of books, and from what I can tell is, this show don't tell, the tip of the iceberg. It's all a bunch of baloney. Okay, you don't have to stress yourself out over these things. Okay, sometimes it's good if you just tell the story. Sometimes it's good if you just show certain things or you hint certain things. Sometimes it's better to have, the tip of the iceberg. Sometimes it's better to expose the whole thing. It all depends on the type of story you're trying to write, the type of mood you're trying to convey, uh, and it depends. Most of all, it depends on your mood at the time, and it depends on the mood of the reader at the time. So there are no set in stone official methods of writing. There's no such thing as that. Okay. So if somebody tells you, you have to show. You don't have to tell. But that person is a liar. From my experience, and I have read a decent amount of books. Listen, I've read a plethora of classic novels from top-tier writers, novelists, and let me tell you, pretty much every single one of them just tell. They just tell it how it is. Sometimes they show, but most of the time they tell it. These new writers, these young writers today, they say, it's not good writing, or not as good writing if you say, he felt this, she thought this, he was scared, he was enraged, he was angry, he felt this, he thought about this. They say that this is bad writing, and I don't agree with that. Essentially, what's the difference between, if you say, there was a chill running up his spine and he felt uncomfortable because of this situation, and then compare that to he just felt angry and he just felt sad or whatever. What's the real difference here? It all depends on the mood, on the atmosphere, on the type of story you're trying to convey, and most of all, it depends on the mood of the writer and on the mood of the reader at the time. There's nothing set in stone. You don't have to do one or the other. Just try to do your best, and things will happen. Pretty much every writer that I have read, they have always used the telling method as well as the showing method. There is no exception. Almost every writer will say she felt angry, he felt sad, he thought about his divorce, he was terrified, she was not at ease, and so forth. Okay, so what these young writers are telling, that all of these top tier established renowned writers, they are bad writers for some reason, which isn't the case. So this whole thing about showing versus telling, it's a myth. It's not real. Stop focusing on it so much. Just write your story. That is the essential, right? And of course, you have the tip of the iceberg, which, of course, again, it's just a myth. It's not set in stone. You don't have to subscribe to that method just because, Hemingway popularized it or whatever. It all depends on the story. Some stories, they flourish in mystery, when you give little hints here and there, and other stories you just have to be direct and use direct, honest language. And sometimes you have to just tell it how it is. You have to show the whole damn iceberg, stop it with this tip of the iceberg, right? And I'm just gonna say, from my experience, I prefer these kinds of stories where everything is mostly direct, honest language. You know, I'm I'm of the belief that as a writer, you have to, as a reader, you gotta stop wasting my time with this nonsense, this circle jerk of going in circles or uh, every time, going in circles. Mystery after mystery, hints and subtleties everywhere, strewn everywhere. After a while, they're fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying that after a while, it becomes exhausting. To me, some people may enjoy these constant, endless mysteries. I call them circle jerks. But I prefer, honest, direct language. Uh, when I read a story, I enjoy the little mysteries here and there, the little misdirections, misinformation, um, the hints, the secrets, and so on. But at the end of the day, I prefer the story that just just conveys what it has to convey. A story should say what it has to say and be done. Uh, you know, you know, I'm not saying that they're bad, but I really hate these book series that keep on going, book after book, and you have all of these mysteries, all of these hints, all of these subtleties, and you only find the answers by the end, by the last book, and even then they might not be that direct or complete, right? The revelation might not be that fail-safe, right? I hate those kinds of books. If you are a serious writer, I think that you should really just, as you go along, you should set the stage, and you should reveal certain things as you go along. You shouldn't hold off all of your secrets for the last book, because I think that makes you a bad writer. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't like these writers whose entire series they latch onto this final reveal. Because without that final reveal, without those secrets, the whole book series would be not that tantalizing, not that uh, fascinating. You see, your book should be more than just a series of secrets and mysteries that will be revealed by the end, if they will be revealed, right? Uh, so that's pretty much it. I prefer a book that just says it how it is. You can have your little mysteries here and there, your little showing, your little hints. There's nothing wrong with that, but at the end of the day, you're just wasting my time. I don't uh, have the patience necessarily to read 1,000-page book, and I'm gonna find the answer at the end. That's exhausting. You gotta keep me interested all the way. You gotta show some of your secrets as you go along. That keeps your reader engaged. If you just waste my time for 1,000 pages with these little misdirections and misinformation and red herrings and what have you, that's annoying to me, right? It's annoying. There are these certain book series that use this show method, um, of just, they have all of these mysteries, right? And you're engaged in it. You want to find out the truth. But what they do is they keep jerking you around for book after book after book. And even if they give you a little hint of an answer, because that answer is now canon, what you will have to face is 100 different questions that need to be answered. So because you get this little answer, you're going to have to think about all of these other questions. Oh, because this is how it is, that means, but if that is the case, then this is, what about that? What about her? What about him? What about this plot line? Because this changes everything. I'm confused. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, bro, I'm tired of all of these mysteries. Who is with who? Who is the traitor? She's not it. He is not it. Maybe those are the conspirators. And you know, at the end of the day, those kinds of stories are fine, but I don't like them. I don't like them, especially those that keep jerking you around, and then they give you a little answer, and then you have to, and then if they give you that answer, then you have 100 other questions to, you know, consider, right? To me, the best stories are those who tackle it directly. There's nothing wrong with being subtle here and there, but at the end of the day, you gotta use honest, direct language, expose the whole iceberg. I don't really like these mysteries. You finish a book and you have no answers. That pisses me off. Uh, but some people like that. And, you know, it's whatever. But I prefer stories that are direct. You know, you can start with a mystery. You can build upon it for 100 pages, for 200 pages. But if you are at 500 pages, listen, it's time for you to start exposing some of the truth, right? If you keep on going for an entire book series, 10 books in a series, and we have no answers, only speculations and suppositions, then what the fuck am I doing wasting my time? It's like, just give me the answer already. I got things to do, right? But that's just me. That's my preference. So that's about it. You know, there's nothing wrong with just showing. There's nothing wrong with just telling. I prefer telling it how it is. Uh, there's nothing wrong with using both techniques. You know, I don't agree with the tip of the iceberg. Just showing you just a little bit. You know, I want to be engaged in the narrative. I want to be engaged in the prose. I want to be invested in the characters. And you can't really be invested if you just give a little morsel. I just want to see the whole thing. And the best way, and the best thing about that is, you think that you know everything about this world you're invested in, but then guess what? Behind this complete iceberg, guess what? You're going to find out that there's another complete iceberg, and the story takes a different direction, and that keeps the reader engaged in your story, right? If you just give a little hint, then I don't know what to tell you. That doesn't make me engaged, right? And there's also this talk about style, right? Style doesn't really exist in my opinion. It's a myth, of course. Also popularized by Hemingway and others. And I don't really agree with that. There's nothing wrong with having long paragraphs. There's nothing wrong with having short, concise sentences. Uh, I prefer the story to be on point. Uh, I don't like these mysteries if they prolong endlessly. But that's just my take on it. Uh, you know, you should take from this video that you should not concentrate so much on all of these styles and methods of writing. Just write your story how you feel that it should be written in, and it will turn out all right. When I wrote my first book, I didn't really consider all these methods and all these styles. I just wrote my story how it had to be written, and you know, at the end I was satisfied with it. Right? It had pretty much every element conceivable, but I wasn't conscious of it. I just wrote the story. But for the most part, it is direct, and I think that that should be the direct path. Should be the one that should prevail at the end. Uh, because at the end of the day, as a reader, you don't want to be jerked around. I think that is essential. As a reader, I don't want to be jerked around for 10 books, right? I want to be engaged in every book, and I don't want to be sidetracked, every couple of chapters because something bizarre happens. Just stick to what you know, right? Tell it how it is, and I think you'll be successful, right? There's nothing inherently uh, incorrect about just being direct and using honest language instead of just putting on all of this fluff, right? But that's just me, right? There's nothing wrong with any of these methods, any of these styles. Some people like the fluff. Some people like to get sidetracked, and some people like to get lost in the mysteries and solving the mysteries and uh, all of these allegations and all of these supposed answers and finding out the clues and solving the whole thing. That's fine, but that's not my thing. I just want to be carried by the story. I don't want to be dicked around. Tell me how it is. Tell me who does what, and you'll have me, right? You'll have me as a reader. I'll be invested in your story. If you dick me around and jerk me around for 10 books, uh, I wouldn't be that satisfied. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just write your story how you want to write it, right? Don't be so obsessed with all of these methods. Show don't tell. Tip of the iceberg. Be honest. Be direct. Maybe use some subtleties. Maybe use some hints here and there. But essentially, don't add on too many accessories, too many ornaments that are essentially used to misdirect and distract the reader from what's really going on. There's nothing wrong with that. Yet again, I have to repeat myself. There's nothing wrong with any of that, but I don't like it that much. I don't prefer it. I prefer the honest, direct path. Uh, you know. But anyway, that's about it. You see, there's no right way and there's no right or wrong way when it comes to writing. Absolutely, there is no correct and incorrect method. You have to tackle your book the way you feel that it has to be written, and don't take all of these people who advise you that you have to show because that's better writing, just because they were successful. Uh, you know, they were successful because they used that type of writing, but that might not apply to you. You see, don't take it so seriously. Focus on your story and on your characters, and you will produce a decent or a superb book. That's about it. Showing versus telling versus the tip of the iceberg. It's all about each individual story. Uh, they don't apply ubiquitously, right? Um, they don't apply to every piece of writing, to every book. Just because that one book shows and doesn't tell doesn't mean that every book has to be this way, or vice versa. Uh, so that's pretty much it. Don't be so invested in all of these suggestions by successful writers. Just do you, do your book in your own way, and you will be satisfied with it. You see, because if you use other people's methods, it won't be your book anymore, right? Write in your own way. There is no such thing as style. No such thing as style in writing, right? It's all about skill. There is no style. Period.